Hi, good evening, good evening. Welcome to Mike at Night. Once again, it's a Thursday. That's right. The Thursday, we're on at 9 o'clock, and this is where we talk relationship. We talk about how we interact with other people. We talk about what's going on between you, me, where we're going wrong, where we're going right. Welcome to all of you. Wow, we have quite a number of people on already for the start of the program. I value you. I thank you so much for joining us. Lyndon, good evening to you. We've got Joy on, Trisha, Florence. Who else we've got? Yep. Sandra Stewart, good night. Lyndon, Joe Field, Patsy, Greg. Wow. Pleasant good evening to you, Wilma Hamlet, Candice Alexander, Avanel, Mackenzie, Lamimi. Is this topic specially designed for me? Lamimi, well, who knows? It's for you tonight. We will see. Monica Voicen, good evening to you. Good evening to all of you all. Thank you all very much for joining us. Hey, what you could do for me, just share the live. Share it on your page, share it on wherever it is. Call somebody and say, we're talking tonight about singles. We're not too sure we're going to complete the discussion tonight because there's so much to talk about singles. But we will do our best. Joanne, good evening, family, blessings and prayers to everyone. Thank you very much, Joanne. All right, so we're going to talk about singles tonight. We're going to also share some thoughts with you, and I want you to do it as dispassionately as possible. Let's look at it from the angle that is being viewed at. I know that people have their various opinions and so on, which we all entitled to, and that's nice. But I want to bring it from a particular angle for tonight only, and then we're going to explore some of that. But for now, while you share the live, we will be right back because we got to pay some bills. Double B Supermarket, 60 to 62 Government House Road, Scarborough, Tobago. All items reasonably priced, friendly staff. If you don't believe me, you call them 639-5329. If you ask them any question, they'll tell you Jesus is the answer.
Don't let the weather of the day dictate your pace. I stay cool every time I got into my vehicle, and you can too. At Tow School Center of 31 Gaskin Bay Road, Bonaccord, they specialize in auto air conditioning with parts and services catering to your car's needs. Call and ask for tows at 660-8777 or 788-3535. Tow School Center, where a comfortable ride is a cool ride.
Halifax Safe Home Revolution is passionate about providing you with scientific-based, medical-grade, safe take-home products that cover your essential needs. From your oral health to your daily skincare regimen to maintaining and preserving your overall health, our products are enriched with premium-grade, patent-protected microsilver and Norwegian spruce tree extract. Halifax Safe Home Revolution will forever change and revolutionize the way you take care of yourself and your families. It's a game changer. All right, let me tell you that we have a program coming up. This is a free introductory program. This program is how to design the life you want. You know, some of us want to have a certain life, but we don't have it. And I think all of us would have passed through that part of life at some point or the other. And some people just haven't achieved it. So how to design the life you want. It's a free introductory virtual program, which means that this is just going to give you a taste of it. There's the deeper program that's to take place later on. So if you wish to be part of that free program, you can go to my website, michaelatstewart.com, michaelatstewart.com. You'll see the ad there. Please register, put your name, your address, all the things that it requires, and we will have you all set up. Your seat will be booked because, hey, a lot of us need to get our lives together. The life you have, is it the life that you want? Many of us live a life that is not ours. We live the life of other people. We live a life in regret. We look we look forward for when we become aged and retired, and then we're now trying to get the life that we want. You don't have to do that. You could get that now. Yeah, everybody could get it now. Now that program is on July 2nd. It is going to be from 6 p.m. to 7:15 p.m. I guarantee you it's going to be wonderful. You just go. You could even go to the program, to the website now while we are talking on the program, and you just register. Right? It's on the first page. You just slide down to the bottom of the page and you can be able to be part of that. All right. So we back. And we're talking about relationship. We're talking about being single in particular. Being single. The psychological effect of being single for too long. Let me put some context into the discussion this evening. A person does not have to be married. Does not have to be in a relationship. A person is whole as they are. Let me say that again. A person is whole on their own without somebody else. I've said so on previous programs and I'm going to repeat that again tonight. You are 100%. When you get into a relationship with another person, you are supposed to get into a relationship with somebody who is also 100%. 100% plus 100% is 100%. They two shall be one. Yeah? 200% is just going to bring you back to 100%. Yeah? Now, what people do is that they look to find somebody who has their missing percentage because they are 50% or 60% and they are looking for somebody to give them the 40% and frustrate themselves in that relationship trying to find that. You must be whole first before you can even consider being in the life of somebody else. And that is what causes so many people to be frustrated with their lives. Right? So now that we have that, there are some people, they are not looking for a relationship. There's no need to force anybody to do that. But there are some people looking for relationships. And they don't understand why they are not getting into a relationship. That's different. And those people, you have to understand that there are some people who want a relationship. All right. So having said that, there are some people who have studied this thing and said that when somebody is single for too long, it affects them psychologically. As we go through some of these things, it does not have to apply to you even though you are single. Because nothing is absolute. It may apply to some people. The studies would apply to some people, and you would not get any study that would apply to 100% of people. So it may not apply to you. Also, you may find that it may not apply to you now, but it may apply to you later. So somebody who's 20 and say, I'm single and I'm quite good. They are 25, 30 years old. I'm single, I'm quite good. I don't want anybody. That may exist now. What happens when you are 60 years old, 70 years old, and you are single? But you have been single for the last 40 years. Is it going to affect you? Well, let's find out. So that's what we're talking about. All right. Avril, good evening. Alice, McKinney, I think it is, yeah. Suzette, why is this thing stuck now? All right. All right. So we have so many of you all with comments that I can't read all of them. So if I don't read all of them, please forgive me. Sharon Manswell, good evening to you. Nice having you on. There are some people on for the first time, apparently. Nice having you on. All right. So let's talk about this single business now. So the source that I'm bringing, there are a number of sources that would have spoken on the topic. There's an article that was written in February 2022. That's how recent it is. Talking about the psychological effect of people who are single. There's the Journal of Health and Social Behavior that would have touched on some of the issues. The American Psychological Association touched on the issue. And I'm going to bring from my own counseling office where I do sit down with people and sit down with single people and married people. And they have shared their thoughts and shared them with me. And while they are private, the thoughts and the expressions are really common. So we just talk about them in their commonality. All right. So here we go. Number one, here's what they say. And it is people who are single, but single too long. Not just single, but single too long. So how long is too long? I don't know, and they never said. So it depends on your situation, another person's situation, but it is over a protracted period of time that they're talking about. Yes. Joan, nice having you. In work again, Joan, or you're home? Yeah. I hope you're off this time, Joan. I want your attention on this one. Joan has give some. Joan is married, but Joan has give some serious, down to earth, raw advice off air. So I want Joan to be listening. Number one, here's what he says. People who have been single too long are less tolerant to work along with other people. They like to have their own way. Let me say that again. People who have been single for too long are less tolerant to work along with other people. They like to have it their own way because they have been single. They get up and go when they want. They operate on their own schedule. They do things to their own liking in their own way. If you have somebody who has been, according to these people who have studied it, this is not my issue now. So don't be calling me, ringing down my phone and telling me that I am coming up with all sort of spurious things. I'm just repeating those people who said they studied it. That, and when you really think of it, it has some credibility, some validity in what it is saying. Because I've had, I know of people who have lived together for a long, long time. Sometimes a grandmother, grandfather, and so on. Or you might even find that it's a man in his 50s, but has not been in a relationship since he was 20 something years old. Once life gets in a certain train, they are very difficult to get them out of that. It is very difficult to tell them to do otherwise because this is how I do it and that is it. They are very assertive about themselves and there's nothing bad in that word assertive, but this is how they do it. And just because that is so, it does not mean that it is wrong, but it is an effect. So if somebody has been single for a period of time, even if somebody wants to come into the relationship with that person, it's not that easy going because the person may be almost immovable, stable in the way how they think and how they do things and how they like things to be done. Even the way how they would operate in the house and where they put things and so on. They don't like to see it put out of place because they've been single for so long. You understand? And remember, it is for if it is too long. So you just tell me, hit me up in the chat and tell me if you agree with that. That first one. Don't want nobody coming to pick me up. I'll drive myself. Yeah. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Yeah. My present husband was single until I met him. We are now together for 18 years and are still working on him. Really? All right. So you see? Yeah. The person gets stuck. I've had a relative. He lived for so long with himself, by himself, without a relationship. That by the time he got into a relationship, it was always a tussle. He always felt this is the way to do this. This is the time that you're supposed to get up. This is the time that you're supposed to get back to bed. Because in his head, that's law. But that doesn't have to be law. But that's how he has. So if the person wants to stay up later and lie till after midnight, no, you don't do that. According to him. Yeah. So they get little comfortable with themselves, and that creates their own little challenges. Just share the life, people. Share the life. Tell somebody we are on and we're hot like boiled corn. So it is said from those who have studied it. As we said, we're talking about the Journal of Health and Social Behavior, American Association of American Psychological Association, etc. These are the people who shared some of the things that we'll be sharing. Um, they like their own way, and they liken it onto when you grow up in a home and you grow up with brothers and sisters, and then you have a child grow up singly. They have two different type of personalities. When you have brothers and sisters, you have to negotiate space. You have to negotiate sharing things, and you have that relationship tussle that would go back and forth, and then you have to make compromise, etc. But if you have a child who never had that, and that child grew up in a home by himself or herself, the child just figured, because the child makes almost independent decision. If the child has something to eat, the child would say everything in the plate is mine. So when you have that same kind of perspective that come into a relationship, as far as somebody who's in a relationship, I can't leave now because my partner is not ready. I can't do this at this point in time because it would be inconvenience to my partner. You have all of that to deal with. But when you're dealing as a person who is single, you decide you were going to go down the road for 9 o'clock. You wake up this morning and they tell you, me, I'm leaving for 9 o'clock again. I leave in 12 o'clock. And you make that unilateral decision. You get accustomed to that. And then now you get into a relationship after being in it for too long. And the person is telling you, let's leave for 9 o'clock. No, I don't want to leave for 9 o'clock. 30 years I was leaving when I want. And you now telling me to leave for 9 o'clock? Okay. Edward Jones, good to see you, Edward. Edward say you agree. Sandra agree. All right, so you see, all agree. A lot of people agreeing. All right, so let's take it comfortable in your own self. Yep. Thank you very much, Sherry. That is what happens in June. Number two, they become very sensitive to emotional issues and so on. They sensitive from the standpoint of their own issues. They're not very invested in the issues of other people because they're in a relationship by themselves. So you will have an issue and they may be less inclined to be empathetic to your situation. Yeah. And so what they were saying is this, that they almost appear people who have lived single for too long, not just people who are single. I'm saying this for those who have joined us late. They become somewhat insensitive to the feelings of what another person is going through. They detach, they disconnect from that, and they are misunderstood as being don't care or without that connection to other people. Now, there are two sides to this. Because they appear don't care, and you ask them, okay, let's go down the road. Nah, I ain't going nowhere. I will stay home today. Because, after a while, the person just likes to be home by themselves. So they no longer invited out. And then they hear that a nice event is going on and everybody else has gone, but they were not invited. And some of that is because of the spin-off of that. I seem not to be able to connect well with people. But however, they are self-opinionated, Malcolm said. All right. Yeah, that's right. Joanne said they have your own way. They like and Joanne said she can relate. Well, you see. Right. I mean, you say, "I'm going nowhere. Go by yourself," and that is true. Because, and let me tell you, this is not a wrong or right. We are saying this is how the personality, the psychological um, development of this person in this situation. So you go by yourself and not going. But yet at the same time, here's what somebody who is in a relationship doesn't have the flexibility to go to some of these social events as free as a single person. So when a single person land up in a function, they are likely to enjoy that function fully. They don't have to study about who boyfriend doesn't like or who wife that gets jealous. They can 100% enjoy themselves. That's an advantage of single people. Yeah, but we're not talking about the advantage tonight. We might probably talk about the advantage next week. Because a lot of married people wish they were single. Because they like the kind of freedom that they have. So the single person can go to a social event and really expatiate. Nobody to tell them you're behaving bad. Right? Or you're behaving in a way that embarrass me. They can be as they like. So they're really the life of the party if they decide to go. You see? But here's what they also said. Having gone to some of these events, to see all of these people coupled off, it makes a single person feel like cockroach in foul party. I wonder if all the various countries understand that statement. I may have, and it may sound as an insult to some people who don't understand what the statement means. So let me see if I could refine that. You seem out of place. Ah, yes, you seem out of place. I'm not supposed to be here because everybody else coupled off, everybody looking as though they're in love and so on, and I come by myself and so on. Of course, there are some people who really don't care about you and all of that, and them coming to enjoy themselves by themselves. They don't care about you. Yeah. But there are others who will be very concerned about that and feel that I'm going to leave early and I will go home. Yeah. I'd have them symptoms. Yeah. True, my brother. All right. So if you agree with that second one, tell me. Number two, give me your opinion on the second one. That some people are sensitive. Yeah. Yeah. They don't have the connection as they would like for example. I think here's a good one. Somebody who's single for too long may call you, but they are calling you because they are bored or lonely. So they are really calling for company, not calling to connect with you. They're not calling to find out how you're doing, even though they may use the phrase, I just call to find out how you're doing. But it's really, I'm bored. It's really that I'm going through. This is what they said. Some people who are single for too long do it. But then the other people on the other side of the telephone made sense. They didn't call to find out about me because the conversation is not about me. The conversation is about them. And they begin to pick up, and that's part of the disconnect that takes place. Yep. Let me know if you agree. Ooh, all right. Over the years, I saw relationships go downhill. So growing up, I realized that the grass ain't always green on the other side. You're absolutely right, Joanne. This is why when you're single, enjoy your singleness to its fullest, people. Yeah? I know of some single people, them really enjoying it. They know that this is it, and they're enjoying it. All right. We've usually overlooked single people. There's this post I saw from Jim Miller on one of the singles Facebook groups that really got me thinking, because I think that he expressed some salient, profound thoughts in that group concerning it. And I felt that we need to start exploring from both sides And that's why I say we would not finish it tonight, but from both sides, the good and the bad, the things that work for the single people and the things that are not working. But we as people must be conscious of what prevails among them. Yeah. So remember now, the singleness has impact. Have you ever had a grandfather or a grandmother? They live together for 60 years. One dies, the next one is single. What happens after that? The next one is likely to die not too long after that. Here's what they found out. Point number 3. They found out that once you are single, you are less likely to fight for health and life. Mm, 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 mm. That was troubling. You are less likely to fight for health and life. And they did some trials, they said. People who they wanted to do trial of medicine and drugs for health. And they found that when you did the trial of the drug for a serious disease, the person who is in a relationship was willing to try anything to give them a shot at life. Yeah. Because they had somebody to live for, that relationship. But you know what they found? Those people who did not have a relationship were not willing to try. They didn't find it worth trying because they are single. They didn't have that connection, that will. This is not me, people. This is what those who study it said. And I'm just bringing it to you. Now, that has implication for years down the road, because we might be enjoying single life now. We might be enjoying the freedom, the spontaneity now. But when we hit 70 years old, 60 years old, 75, 80 years old, will we still want that single life? Or do we want to have somebody in a relationship with us? But you can't start it then. So this is why there are things that we do afore time in order so that we can get what we want. Hence, I have performed marriage of age people, 70 years old, 80 years old. And you know what they tell me? It's hard being that age and don't have somebody to talk to. They need a relationship, companionship. And I listen to them and I hear them saying they never thought that they would have. I remember one lady saying, she will never ever get married. She don't need that. She don't need nobody in the relationship. I performed her marriage. But she was already in her 70s by then. You see? So those are things we cannot ignore. Yeah, we cannot ignore them. Right. Oh, yes. Somebody said you could still be married and still be single. You had better be. Whosoever said that, I agree with you 100%. You had better be single, because singleness is being whole. The word single means to wean. Wean from, so just as a calf weans from the cow. That is what you're single. You don't need to be sucking again, attached to. You have been separated and you are able to operate as a whole without being hitched up. And a single person must be single. And when you're married, you are still single. From the true definition of single. Because you're really whole and independent as you are. If that person dies or if that person leaves you, you will miss them, but you are still whole. You're not going to be talking about committing suicide. You're not going to be talking about, oh, the person has taken away the greatest part of you. Yeah. No, they did not leave with the greatest part of you. You'll miss them, but you are still whole. And that's the mentality that we have to have. All right. So they said they did other experiment with people also with Alzheimer's. People with Alzheimer's, they said, those who in the relationship would take whatever medication that they want to experiment so that they can save their memory and live longer. But those who were not in a relationship, they did not find it worth taking in this. And remember, I remember, I remember reading a true story, and you could Google it. Man would rock. He tell his family he would rock climbing. He goes rock climbing, and this time by himself. He was less use people who know he was get with a lot of guts and will to do that. And then he took his penknife because now the arm is broken, the bone is broken, but the skin is still attached, and cut the skin and ripped himself away and walked himself to safety. He had lost blood, he was weak, but he survived it. You know what gave him that will? He was in a relationship, he said, of love. And so when I read those people who saying that people who are in relationship have a stronger will to live versus those who are not in a relationship, I thought of that man. Today he's still doing rock climbing with one arm. He has not given it up. Imagine that. Yeah. Hey, all right. So I gave you 3 there. Let me see if I could give you one more, and then we take a break. And just before I go on to that, you know, I meet more and more people in the 30s and 40s who tell me, and shockingly tell me that, you know, I feel I could die now. 30 years old, 40 years old, you could die now? And sometimes when I ask them, why would you say a thing like that? Well, I'm not in a relationship, and I always wanted to be in a relationship, and I'm not. So, what's the sense? Which again supports where they said the will to live. Yeah. I remember I went to a conference in Florida one time, and I went across to Disney World was there, and the place is just out of this world. They all seen all that scene. You know, I went to the conference on my way, and not have shared that with him very sad in a place produced happiness. Walking there and not having somebody to point out and say, look at that, look at that. It's not easy. It's easy for me. So I'm wondering whether there are people who are for too long, not those who are just single, those who are for too long. If so, pointing things out to people, having an experience for the first time with somebody. It's different to take a cruise on one of those luxurious ships that are going around the Caribbean and going to different parts of the world, and you're going with somebody you love, than going with somebody such as all that me and sharing all. There's no wrong. The reality not that. All right. On the other, John says on this She needs to brush off that cobweb and move on. Yeah. This is why we have to be whole. We have to be single, truly single. That is the best person to get in a relationship with. Stacy asks, how long is too long? I'm going to ask the people on Facebook to answer that for you because I don't know, to be honest. I really don't know. I don't even think anybody could prescribe that. But Langdon said, it hurts more to not be single and feel that you're alone. Whoa. I wonder if that is not worse in true. Phillips. Yeah, you are in a relationship with somebody and you are alone. For me, if I could answer that, Phillips, I would rather be alone and feel alone than feel alone. That's me. Trust me. Bernadette said, I'm single since 94 and quite content in all my singleness. All right. Okay, you go, girl. Malcolm, too long is when you start to feel lonely. Okay, that might be a good concept in true. Joanne said, agree with you, Mike. You know just what points to touch on. Sometimes I feel left out, but I'd rather be alone and happy than with someone and miserable. You're absolutely right. That is why single people only don't feel guilty being single because a lot of married people wish they were not married. When you're single, you could go out with anybody, lots of free lunches and dinners. You could be admired and enjoy the